Captain's Log, Episode 88. This week's episode of the Beer Ventures podcast is sponsored by the Beer and Cheese Collective, located at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria, Queens. Tickets still available for the third annual Boss Lady Brews on October 14th from 7 to 10 p.m., featuring open bar, unlimited samples from guest brewers, raffle prizes, and other surprises. Come celebrate the women making amazing beer and cider. A portion of all proceeds from ticket sales go to the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. Enjoy their eclectic array of craft beer, artisanal cheeses, and specialty grocery items at the Beer and Cheese Collective. During my recent visit to Ohio, I spent a lot of time experiencing local beer with frequent guest beer venger, the Incredulous Bulk, aka Dr. Bruce Beer Nerd. So we decided to have him back for an 8-pour show featuring talks of Oktoberfest, the Ohio Renaissance Festival, and more. Remember to like, star, and subscribe whenever that feels appropriate. And send us your emails at thebeervengers@gmail.com if you have any questions, suggestions, or if you just like hearing us talk about you on the show. And now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 88, Oktoberfestivus for the Rest of Us, or The Subtle Kilt.
With a beer ventures, beer ventures, beer ventures. We're the Beer Vengers.
Welcome to the Beercast, everyone. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Montgomery County, this is Captain Porter Brownstout.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Fresno County, California, this is the Pale Male Hophead Huck.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in the County of Kings, it is I, the Beer Wonder.
And from the secret basement lab, also in Montgomery County, but still a little more disclosed, it is I, the Incredulous Bulk.
And we are Yeah, that's right. We're the Revengers. I guess I'll disclose a little bit more. The Montgomery County is in Ohio, and if you listen to the last couple episodes, you know why I'm here. But we're here not to talk about that. We're here to have beer. I'm starting to do the Golden Mile chant, whatever that is.
Yes.
But I don't remember the exact words of it because I'm inspired because we have the Incredulous Bulk, aka Dr. Bruce Beer Nerd, back with us for. I think this is an unprecedented 6th time. Have we had anyone on as many times as you've been on, Dr. Beer Nerd?
It's all just such a lovely, lovely experience, and it feels like I'm here all the time. So thank you very much for continuing to invite me back.
The unprecedented is now precedented. You have precedented it, the Incredulous Bulk. Excellent precedenting.
I'm just glad it's another thing to piss off Nutpool.
It's true. Oh, yeah. Say what you will about Nutpool.
Yes, we always say what we will about Nutpool.
Oh, fuck yeah, my dude.
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go.
Oh, fuck yeah, my dude. I wasn't sure if you had the sounds there.
It's there. It's there.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
But in all of this back and forth, all of this, I mean, we've got a lot to talk about.
We do.
What we've done since we had our last episode, but most importantly, we can't really get to a whole lot of it before we get to the pours, right?
Let's do it.
This makes a lot of sense to me. And really, here's the thing. Can we call the Incredulous Bulk a guest because they are now the unprecedented precedented?
Well, I mean, I guess since he's been on more than anyone else, but still less than the rest of us, I think he still rises to the top like some organic cream.
Oh,
very good. Why don't you kick us off there,
Very nice.
Doctor?
Yes,
it would only be creamy and polite.
So, it's you know what? It has been long enough that I don't recall. Do we show container first and then pour? Is that appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. The main thing we need to do is show you pouring it, and then show the beer and the glass next to each other
For the social medias.
Yes.
Very good.
So what do we have here?
We have Eudora's Oktoberfest, which is a
Ooh.
style lager. Eudora is a Dayton brewery. I don't believe I've brought them to the Beercast before. To be completely correct, they are a suburb. They are in Kettering, Ohio.
Mm.
And I've tended to stick downtown because that's where I live, but they are very, very skilled. They make some lovely beers, and they're very charitably involved. They support charity water extensively,
Mm.
Mm.
getting clean drinking water around the world. And this is, I'm really looking forward to this ability. It's one of my, I've had it before. It's one of my favorite Oktoberfests. So,
It's got a
Excellent.
gorgeous
so
dark
I'll hold
amber
myself back.
I
color.
was
Isn't
gonna
it? I mean, the
say
color is just spot on
it
every
looks.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's classic. And you got a fun glass there that it's in. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about that glass?
Oh, yes, this is the pandemic commemorative Dayton Loves Beer glass from Barrel House, uh, favorite local bottle shop. It is covered with negative reviews from people who objected to the Barrel House's efforts to keep the virus from spreading.
Oh.
So they produced a glass of their negative reviews all over it and then made it a commemorative edition. I really like their style.
Well,
That
that's
is
just
cool.
outstanding. That is terrific. I love it. Oh, well,
Yeah, Beer Wonder, what do
gentlemen,
you got over there?
what do I have? Well, I just, I don't know. I mean, everyone's going to be so surprised. It's just so unlike me because today I will be drinking a.
Sponsored pour.
A sponsored pour from the Beer and Cheese Collective, 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard.
Is everyone shocked?
I'm agog. I'm
Stunned.
aghast.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm
That's
apoplectic.
that's the validation that I'm looking for. So today it's actually a repeat of a brewery that I have enjoyed before. I guess we're continuing to give Rick lots of reasons to go on vacation. But this is from Ossining, New York, which is a beautiful town just a little bit north of the city. It is from Sing Sing Kills, and this is their Singularity. It's a beautiful blue can, and they've got kind of like who's the guy who does the pictures that like go in on themselves and are totally circular, or like it's a
Escher?
hand drawing? Escher, yes.
Oh yeah.
MC Escher. It looks kind of almost like an MC Escher kind of can art situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Hmm.
beautiful. It is a single malt, single hop pale ale made with 100% New York State ingredients, clocking in at a casual 5.5%. Just something
There you
gentle,
go.
just something light and floofy to, start off the session with. And of course, I have it in my appropriate beerware. So let's take a look at what we've got.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
It's got a good
Okay.
amber color, limited head production.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a little bit there.
Getting a little haze going there. Oh, but
Yeah.
it clears up. Yeah, that's got
I
a
know. It's very pretty. It's a pretty one, and I'm excited to drink it. And I do love a single malt, single hop take on any sort of PL, I or less I don't know, that kind of situation. APA, PL, get the P and the L together, maybe throw an I in front of it. I'm always a happy camper. So
love
I'm
it.
excited to see what Sing Sing Kills has brought for me this evening. Thank you to our friends at the Beer and Cheese Collective.
Well, I'm going to see what Huck has.
Yeah, great. I actually am bringing a new brewery to the show today, and it's actually a brewery I've been going to for a while, even before I moved out here. And it's from Danville Brewing,
Ooh.
and it's called the Big B. It's actually a 29th anniversary IPA of a bar called
Ooh.
the Bistro in Hayward, California, which I've never been to, but I go to Danville a lot because Bricken's aunt lives there, and
Hmm.
and my
You mean
in-laws
Cider
bring me
Girl's
there.
aunt?
Oh, excuse me.
I don't know who this Bricken you're talking about
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Is there like a
Means nothing. What do you?
I'm getting so casual with the names, but it's I love them. Every time I go up there, I'm more impressed
oh
each time I go, and I've been going since they were really just getting started. And what's really great is my mother-in-law and my aunt. They love going there. They don't drink, but they love the pretzel bites. So then I get
Wow.
to go and have a barley wine at noon.
The
So
two worlds collide and enhance each other.
and it really works out well. I just went, and I was lucky to get. You can only get their cans there. It's that kind of place they don't really widely distribute, but it's a really nice brewer, and I only see good things going forward with them. Every time I go there, it's an improvement. So this is another IPA. Let's give it a shot here.
love it.
And now
Oh
I'm
gosh.
now
And
I
now
want to visit the bistro in Hayward. It looks like it's a place that started in 1994, so it's been around a long time, and so it seems like it's a pony bar style place that was ahead of the curve.
Incredible.
Being opened
See
in
that
'94
can up
certainly
there
would be
next to it
ahead of the
again?
Yeah,
curve.
can
I,
you
Oh yeah,
can
thank you. I'm sorry
yeah.
about
bring?
that.
Yeah, because and I can't quite tell from this angle. Again, the internet can distort realities, as the incredulous bulk and I were talking about earlier. But how clear is this beer? Because it does look pretty clear.
It is very clear, and they're calling it West Coast, but it does have a bit of an unfiltered vibe to it. A little
Oh, nice.
slight haze to it. Gives it a brighter orange color,
Nice.
almost, and a little thin head there. I'm not know about what's going on there, but it's clocks in. It's not too heavy, about 6.4%, I believe. Yeah, 6.2. So look forward to trying this one.
I
Which I have
thought
Incredible.
Beer
not
Wonder
tried
was
yet.
going for the size of the can, which was puzzling me. I'm trying to figure out, is it a 12 or a pint,
No,
16.9?
it's a 16er. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, okay.
pint glass.
Yeah, it is the big B.
Pint.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is the big.
As size matters. All right, Captain. Our fearless
Okay,
Captain.
so
What do you got?
there's a little story here. That's why I wanted to go last because I didn't
Mhm.
want to keep you guys thirsty for too long. I've been here in Dayton for about 2 weeks, and I've had some wonderful beers since I've been here. At one point, we thought we were recording a few nights ago, so last Saturday I went to the Barrel House, same place that we were just talking about. Had a wonderful AleSmith draft there that had a similarly themed. There were a lot of writing on there, but my eyes are too small to really see it. But or my eyes are too old to see it, I should say. But it did have a wonderful little message there. Hops are greater than hate. Which I love.
Oh, I love that.
And it might have even had some of the same reviews you were talking about, Doctor.
Yeah.
But so I was talking to Matt there, and I said, what's a good dark local beer? And he said, well, he doesn't have one of the Dayton ones, but he gave me a really wonderful Columbus coffee stout. And up until a couple of days ago, that's the one I was planning on having tonight. But yesterday I was in Yellow Springs, which is near here. Look it up on your map. We don't need to get into geography too much here. But there's a wonderful brewery there, and they had one imperial stout there on draft. So of course that's the first thing I had. And as soon as I tasted it, I also looked it up. I tried to put it on Untapped. I'd had this beer twice before, but it had been about 7 years. And they weren't actually at the brewery. There was a bar called Lucky's in the Oregon district. But as soon as I tasted it, like this is hands down the best beer I've had here since I arrived. Got to have it on the podcast. And this
Of
is called.
course.
So they didn't have it in cans. So they made me a crowler straight off the draft, less than just barely 24 hours ago. And this is a maxed out Imperial American Stout. It's 11.3%. And I'm so looking forward to having some more of it right now.
Sounds incredible.
That was a mighty crack.
Yeah, well, a crowler should do that for you.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Oh my.
Oh,
And quite the pour too.
Is that a 32 ounce crowd?
It is. There we go. Nice healthy head there. Let me just
Beautiful dark. It's
so
almost
massively-
Yeah.
it's almost a gradient from the head into the beer itself. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I may have possibly should have tilted a little bit more, but
Nah,
an acceptable mistake, I think.
I would agree.
All right, I think we all have our full beers. So
I think
Beer
so.
Ventures.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm. Oh yeah,
We should add Prost.
Prost.
Oh,
Yes,
that is true.
Oh, I do love that.
That is delicious.
yes, we are recording this on September 28th of this year, so it is prime Oktoberfest
We
season.
are still in fest season.
Yes, we are festing hard. So Bulk, you have said this is one of your favorite Oktoberfests, like out
Really?
there.
Yes.
Why? What? Like, is it? How classic bars it is it? Like, tell us about why this beer is incredible.
Totally classic and also very fresh, right? Because the brewery
Yeah.
is, less than a 15-minute drive from my house.
Mhm.
And it's got kind of a special place. Eudora is still a brew on prem.
Oh, nice.
So, which I recommend, especially to people who have homebrewed, like myself, because everyone recommends it to people who haven't homebrewed, and it's a way to get started, and you kind of, simulate it. But the treat of being able to make beer and then not clean anything up or wash the bottles or any of the, it's just really wonderful. So this recipe is the same one they offered for brew on prem. It is straight up classic. It's Hallertau and Saaz hops.
Nice.
Mhm.
And I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them all wrong. I think I'd have better history knowledge than that. But it's a crystal style, so it gets that coppery color, and the flavor is just as it should be. It is textbook. It is what I have imagined. It is very similar to the Hofbrauhaus I've had at the Hofbrauhaus in Newport, second largest after
Nice.
Munich. Um, and it's just kind of what I want when I'm in that Oktoberfest mood. There are some other notables nearby. I like them quite well, but
Hmm.
this just lands it.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of fest beers lately. Obviously, tis the season.
Yeah.
I had one just a few hours ago.
But this IPA is it's very dank. It's almost syrupy. It's got that old West Coast vibe, which is great because they're celebrating a bar from 29 years that's been there for
Right.
29 years. So it's definitely got that old school California West Coast IPA vibe to it. Let me take another sip. It's made with Mosaic and Mackenzie. No, did I say Mosaic? Take that back. Mackenzie hops, Rawaka hops, and Nelson Sauvin hops, which I believe
Ooh.
Rawaka and Nelson Sauvin are Australian and New Zealand hops.
That
So
sounds right. Yeah.
combining the new with the old, Mackenzie sounds Canadian. I don't know. I never had Mackenzie hops before, but now that I know it's got that Rawaka in there, yeah, that definitely. I always feel like they have a melony kind of vibe. It's really really fruity and just really easy to drink, and it actually tastes stronger. It tastes like more of a double for 6.2. So it's actually, sometimes you get the opposite where you get a double and it's like, oh, it's so smooth. This is like got a little more heft to it, like dankness to it going on for such a light alcohol beer. But I dig it for sure.
That's amazing.
And I
Well,
love Danville. I'll talk more about Danville later, but yeah.
Well, I bringing us continuing with that sort of like pale ale situation. I wanted to talk more about our singularity here because, of course, it is single malt, single hops. What
Love
I
that.
what I love on this one though is so they're going for like kind of a West Coast IPA kind of Cascade hops feel, which they're getting as well. It's kind of citrusy and piney, not super bitter. Definitely goes down really easy, but their grain has an interesting story. It is a Hudson Valley malt that is sailed to them, sail freighted on the schooner Apollonia. And I don't know if we've
Yeah.
discussed this too much. I think you might have talked about it, Huck, right?
We had one on the show once, yeah, from
Yeah.
Five Boroughs.
Mm-hmm. So it's a sailboat that does freight within the New York City and surrounding areas, and so it's always cool when their name shows up. I know currently they are sailing pumpkins down to the Five Boroughs because that is, it's that time of year. So if you want a sailed pumpkin, you can go and pick those up. And they'll be in Red Hook, they'll be in Manhattan, they'll be in Brooklyn Bridge Park, all that kind of stuff. But always fun when they show up. And honestly, it's just a delight. It's a solid 5.5. It's going down nice and easy. The flavors are right there. It's really kind of giving me everything I want. That's a little bit West Coasty, not a bunch of haze, not a bunch of flowers and fruit. Just kind of a nice one. Just a well done, solid. I mean, Crusher, I think, is the way that they have described it, and I would agree with that.
Beer Wonder, I got a little distracted realizing you were still talking about New York because every time I hear the word Apollonia, I think about where you grew up when she purified herself in the water of Lake Minnetonka.
Yes, that fair enough. Yes. Well, it connect. Everything is connected, is what I'm hearing. It really is. We have achieved. Wait for it. We've achieved singularity.
Very nice. Very nice.
See, okay,
this will be a recurring theme. I actually think that's also the Escher painting thing is great about that one. Also, with the idea that it comes up a lot about how much of beer is science, and singularity being an important quality in physics.
Right. Yeah.
So that all fits together. A lot of brewers are. Well, I mean, any brewer is a scientist, but some of them were like in something more of a traditional science profession before they came and like applied it to fermentation.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're all fans of the single malt, single hop because bulk smash. So
well done, well
Absolutely.
done.
So we've all been really good about I guess all been really good about talking very specifically about where your beer comes from. So I had to go to the website to make sure I said the right thing about this one. And the way it's described is an imperial stout brewed with crisp American 2-row malt and plenty of chocolate and roasted barley, then dry hopped with Amarillo and Centennial hops.
Oh
Big
my.
hoppy when fresh and perfect for those wintry nights.
Ooh.
Here's where I get confused in this description. When they say plenty of chocolate and roasted barley,
Mm.
are they talking about roasted? Are they talking about chocolate barley? Or are they talking about chocolate?
Wow. So it says chocolate and
Barley.
roasted barley.
Because I know there is a type of malt that has no chocolate that's called chocolate malt,
Right.
Right.
Yes.
but I don't know if that also applies to barley.
That description to me seems like they put chocolate in it.
It sounds that way, yeah. The
So-
reason I question it is
Are you
because
getting
this
a chocolate?
Yeah.
is
Is there?
definitely a chocolate flavor to it, but it doesn't taste. It doesn't taste like an adjunct.
Oh.
It
Okay.
just really tastes like it's just endemic to the whole beer. And when I said this was I was not hyperbolizing when I said this is the best beer I've had since I got here. It's just like I had it like this is the perfect taste of a chocolate imperial stout. It's those like rich, dark, chocolatey notes, not especially sweet. More like with dark chocolate or like with coffee. It doesn't taste like coffee, but like that sort of old chicory thing.
Mm,
And it's perfect.
right on.
When you find perfection in a beer, it's something you should savor, especially in a crowler size.
And I should say, when I mentioned Lucky's, that's a place that we've often gone to. Regular listeners of here know that the doctor and I have gone on the doctor started the Golden Mile, the 12-hour pub crawl here in Dayton, and Lucky's is always on it. And I couldn't quite place. They were both during months. One of them might have been you and I hanging out together, doctor, because but it also might have been just me going there before a movie,
Yeah.
because one was definitely in like January of 2016. Long ago enough that when I went there, it was like I started to put it in as if it's a beer I'd never had before, and I had one in 2016 and one in 2017, which means I could have had done since then because I often don't repeat enter, but both times I gave it 4.5 stars, and I stick by that. Maybe even higher. Maybe I should be more generous, but yeah, this is a really fantastic beer.
I used to beat myself up for overrating beers, and I do tend to be an enthusiast, right? I have something, and if I'm enjoying it, I like mark it up a bit. But I have no shame about if you taste it and say this is the perfect one of those. There can be another perfect one. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
better than all that follow or all that came before. But if it's as well as that style can be done, land them a 5.
Yeah, maybe I should have. Maybe I will reconsider that. Yeah, I say generally, yeah, I know, but I also overrate beers to the degree where like if it's solid, I'll almost always give it a 4.
Why not?
I mean, Huck, I remember you used to struggle at Pony trying to give a beer a 3 or a 2. Like that was a struggle. It was a painful thing for you.
It had to be bad. Had to be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting the mind of a Captain Lawrence beer. Nothing against Captain Lawrence, but this particular beer was like a lemon. I don't know. It was just ill conceived, and I gave it a 3. And that was hard. Sorry, Captain, but not you.
No,
Captain.
no,
Captain
Lawrence,
Lawrence,
Charles, not
Captain
me,
Captain
the other
Lawrence.
Yeah.
Captain Lawrence.
But yeah, because if it tastes good, and especially in craft, because craft beer is still the little guy, even though we have a lot of big breweries nowadays like Sierra Nevada or Stone, but they're still the little guy compared to the best-selling beers in the country, like Anheuser-Busch and Miller Coors, all these conglomerates. So I always want to root for the craft brewery.
Right.
Absolutely,
So
yeah. I mean, even
I'm
even
always,
here,
even
like,
though I do criticize them when they don't give me what I want. Like what's that
we
one?
don't have to love them unconditionally, but they do deserve more of our love than the macros.
What's my nemesis in Anaheim?
Oh, Bottle Logic.
Bottle Logic. Yeah, Bottle
I
Logic.
when I
I
get back
almost
to New
brought a
York, I've
Bottle
got it.
Logic on today. I was like, oh no, let me give him a break.
When I get back to New York, I have I have a 60 beer crate from Tavor
Well,
Oh,
very
my.
exciting.
soon.
Ooh.
And there were a few Bottle Logic things they had on the menu, and I don't think I ordered any of them. Not because I didn't want them, but because they were just like always just a little more than I wanted to spend.
Yeah, they definitely the imperial stouts they make. And you asked me how much they were here, and I remember going to the store recently and looking at, and I said 25. They're actually more like 26, 27.
Yeah. which is nice every once in a while. But like if I'm ordering it from mail order, just blind.
A special occasion, I'll get something like that to share with people.
You mean like Stadapalooza?
Only the finest occasions.
For sure. I tell you, I was going to Danville. I just saw they opened in 2016, and maybe to us old folks it doesn't seem that long ago, but that's a good 7 years.
Yeah.
And every time I go back there, it's like I see their improvement. Sometimes you go to a brewery early on and you're like, this is okay, and then they sort of stay there, But Danville just continually is improving. And I actually got to talk to the brewer last time we went, because when I went, I ordered the smoked lager.
Oh,
and when you get a smoked lager, we've been to Bamberg recently. And,
yes, we have.
And so we know our smoked lagers.
Schinkerla.
The Schinkerla. This one they made there in Danville was very good. And I talked to him. I said, "Oh, you don't see a lot of Rauch beers that are this good." Rauch beer. And he said, "Well, we just went to Bamberg last year, and we were wholly inspired by what they did there, and they made a really nice Rauch beer." And what's funny, because the last time I went, it was still on tap. So I'm thinking that the Danville locals aren't buying in.
Oh,
to the it's scary for people.
It takes, you got to get used to it. I mean, even the folks we were traveling with who were not quite as beer enthused as we were, it took a little bit of energizing to get them to try it.
Yeah, but they made an excellent smoked lager, and they make really good hoppy IPAs, and they make great lagers too. And I mentioned a barley wine earlier. Like, I went there at noon for a lunch with the aunties, and I was like, "Is it too early for a barley wine?" The bartender was like, "It's never too early for a barley wine."
That is
wonderful. It was
wonderful.
really good.
Yeah.
So shout out to Danville. I'm glad we finally got him on the show.
Amazing. Good to represent for a place that you feel is doing correct.
And the pretzel bites are excellent. They really are.
Well, I know Cider Girl does love a pretzel. So
yeah. I was it's funny. I was when I was in Yellow Springs yesterday. I was having a different Yellow Springs beer at the Trail Tavern, and a burger. And yeah, some guy came in. I think it was the delivery guy, who was just on his route, and he specifically went in there to get some pretzels to go, because pretzels are great when they're good.
Pretzels are great
when they're good. I love it. Well, I am curious, because I know that the captain and the doctor have done some very important investigation, given that it is that sacred time of year for us beer drinkers. It is the time of year for the Oktoberfests, and also for Renaissance festivals.
Well, yes. I mean, I've also been, I've been here. I have other things that I needed to do, and it's been wonderful hanging out again with the doctor. And the first day I was here, we went to Little Fish, which we may have talked about on another episode. But yeah, this past weekend, I hesitate to say Southern Ohio, because I was taken to task for this when we were at
very dangerous.
Oh boy, can't do it.
I'm not going to say it's the same thing, but I've realized that, if, much like with pronouns, that if someone corrects you, you never argue with them.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I think Southern Ohio is geographically correct if you're only looking at Southern and Northern, if someone insists it's Southwestern Ohio, you say, "I'm sorry, that is what I will call you now. I may still call it Southern Ohio when you're not around, but for you, yes, Dayton is Southwestern Ohio," because she is technically correct. But yeah, this is a big Oktoberfest region. And we had already made plans to go to the Renaissance Festival over the weekend, and that we'll get to that story as well. But about a couple of days ago, or a couple of days before it all started, I was my next door neighbor, my dad's next door neighbor here, was he was pouring there, and he was telling me all about when I should go and when I shouldn't. I'm like, I could go, but I don't really have anyone to go to. And the next thing I know, the doctor was texting me, said, "Hey, you want to go to Oktoberfest tomorrow?" I was like, absolutely. And it was a great time.
Now, this is the Oktoberfest that happens in Dayton, or is this the because there's a number of them, correct?
There are so many.
There's
so many.
But yeah, we have talked about the Cincinnati one, and we can get into that. Actually, maybe we should start with that one, because we've talked because there's a lot to talk about with the Dayton one. and it was wonderful. But we've mentioned a lot of times before on this show about how Cincinnati, which is about an hour south of here, so it's more southern. I think you could. It's still. I guess it's still southwest. Anyway,
Isn't its airport in Kentucky?
It
it
is.
is.
Okay,
It is.
there you go. Gotcha.
Yeah, so it is bordering a southern state. Anyway, but I found out about a few years ago, like right before we started doing this podcast, that Cincinnati has the second biggest Oktoberfest celebration in the world after
Right.
Munich.
Right.
And I was having lunch with the doctor my first couple of days here, and he told me that yeah, they have the second biggest, but it may be far from, or maybe it's gotten better. But for many
Definitely,
years,
yes, definitely. If you
it
go
was
now, it's
far.
fine. So yeah,
But for many years, it was far from the second best. So I want you to talk a little about that.
sure. I mean, it's been a long time. Well, no, I was there during the not so great period, and the thing is, it was just a big old drinking the whatever beers were available festival.
Like a frat
Right.
party.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, exactly. Some music and definitely a traditional music tent. So they had that going for them. But it was macros and a few locals. Um, uh, Shout out to the somewhat lamented Hudipole Brewing Company, although the brewery is still operating and they brought back some of the brands. Um, Actually, they started producing an Oktoberfest that is served currently, and is not bad. Although it amused me at Blind Bob's recently when the server could not pronounce the exotic foreign brewery name Hudipole, and I didn't disabuse
Oh.
her. They're in Cincinnati. Okay. So sorry. Digressing
That is
as
a
is our wont. Um,
I, I'm going to do air quotes here. People in southwestern Ohio. I don't want to generalize overall, but I have met a lot of people who say that some of them are challenged with regard to certain pronunciations. I have another one I'll mention in a moment, but before we send us letters, let's get more
yes.
about.
Well, we should also mention, and this is something that extends into Dayton and our shared childhoods and adolescences. The bratwurst in southwestern Ohio is not what you'd call a bratwurst anywhere else. It's more like a weisswurst.
Okay.
And we have the
ah.
metwurst, which is just not very common outside this region.
I've never
Typically
seen it
smoked
anywhere.
a
It's one
little
of my
spicy.
favorite things my
Uh,
mother brought home from the store, and I've never seen it anywhere else.
Is that spelled with a K?
No, it's Met, like with an M.
Oh,
Metwurst.
Met. I thought you said
mm,
net.
Yes.
I
so
don't. Yeah, please tell us what.
uh,
I mean, I could look it up, but
and that, but
Metwurst.
that has been a part of the Cincinnati Oktoberfest, and a very strong part, including some pretty good local makers that make a big deal of it there. But in when I'd say a few years after craft brewing really came strong to Cincinnati, Oktoberfest stepped its game up. There were
Mm.
always kind of a bottle tent, like you could go and get a German import, but it wasn't the focus. And now I know Rheingeist has a very strong presence there. Um,
Very popular Cincinnati brewery. Yeah.
yeah, uh, trying to remember one of the others that uh, I think 50 West was there this year, but not with a Martz and with another like alternative. So now it's I think very respectable beer destination. Although there is still from people I've known who've gone recently a lot of drunken frat boy type behavior. Um, by Dayton's biggest one, where we were, is sponsored by the Dayton Art Institute, or rather,
Oh.
sponsors the Dayton Art Institute. It is
Oh.
It
their
is on
biggest
the grounds of the Dayton
fundraiser,
Art Institute. Yeah.
so it's got kind of a little bit different vibe. I mean, it's not that we didn't have a lot of beer; we certainly did. We sang
Yeah.
some German songs. There was techno dancing, but it isn't on the scale or the mood
That's very
that.
German.
Yeah. Oh yes, very much so. I would like to
It
point
may not
out
be on
that
the same scale, but it's enough.
oh yeah, no, it's exactly as much as I want. I don't want to have to walk through a giant drunken crowd when it's time to leave. A small one is great. A couple of some high
And
fives,
we
some roasts, and how you doing? And
we rarely had to wait any time at all for beer.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, there was a lot of local beer there, but the biggest German representation there was Warsteiner.
Okay, yeah, not my favorite.
You
4
know,
Warsteiners
my
on
neighbor who
tap.
was pouring said the same thing.
Yeah, and that's a matter of the distribution arrangement, right? So one distributor got
Mm-hmm.
Oktoberfest, and you could pick from what they had, and Warsteiner was their draft German. So
I mean, it is interesting. You walk into the place and they have a big sign saying the beer is sponsored by Miller Lite. Uh,
God.
but despite that, you had all that Warsteiner beer, and there were a lot of local representations. I think that red beer I had at the end of the night was from Mad Tree. Is that right?
yep,
Oh, good old Mad
and
Tree.
Oh, we know them. Yeah.
Yeah, before we transition into the Renaissance Festival, I will say on the last episode when I was planning on coming here, I talked about how Dayton has such a vibrant beer scene, and they still do.
Yes.
But I said that I wasn't seeing a lot of beers from the other places in Ohio, and that has shifted. I think it has to do with the fact we've talked occasionally about how sometimes craft beer bars and beer stores are not carrying as much local stuff
Right.
because they think, oh, you can just go to the brewery for that, or maybe the brewery isn't selling them as much stuff. I don't know, chicken egg, whatever you have there.
Yeah.
But I have found I've seen a lot of those other ones. Most notably, I was at Old Scratch Pizza the other day, and I had a wonderful Listerman Chickow Brown, which the only time I'd
Oh,
ever had that one.
Listerman.
Yeah, but that was one I think I'd gotten from. I think I'd gotten that one from Tavor at some point or another, but I hadn't really
Sure.
seen Listerman in Dayton a whole lot. I also went out a couple nights ago. My dad's next door neighbor, he took me on a few different great places. We started out at the one where your Oktoberfest is from, Doctor
Eudora.
Eudora. Yes, he took me to Eudora, and then he drove me out to this place. It was a little further out. It was a place where their whole gimmick was craft beer and board games.
Ah, that's always a good
Oh,
combination.
yeah, I know where you
So,
were. Yeah,
what's the name of it?
D20, a bar with
D20. I remember
Yeah,
D. I forgot the
yeah.
number. Yeah. And he basically just wanted to show it to me. And I walked in and I was like, yeah, this is a cool place. He said, yeah, we can just go on to, because he was taking me to another great bar. And he said, yeah, we don't have to have a beer here. I just want to show it to you. And I said, like, unless it's a beer you really want. I'm like, I want that Wolf's Ridge salted chocolate Direwolf. I have to have that beer.
Yes, you
I had a version of the Direwolf
We're
a
not
couple years ago.
leaving until I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, no, there is one I really want here. So he had a Coke because he was driving my dad's Mazda sports car, and I had this really great Wolf's Ridge, which is a Columbus brewery. So I do
Oh, there you
find
go.
that this visit, I'm seeing more Cincinnati and Columbus beers in bars and even beer stores.
Huh.
And they're really great. But yeah, it seems like a lot of times in Dayton proper, you have to go to the source.
I think that's
Right. I
fair.
was in
Yeah.
Columbus recently, and I meant to go to the Wolf's Ridge. It was in downtown, but I didn't
Yeah.
make it. I was
Huh.
only there a couple days. But I've been reading about Metwurst. It's very interesting. It's supposed to be made with raw minced pork that has been smoked and cured, so it's edible. But it has to be prepared with high quality fresh ingredients. Otherwise, deadly microorganisms and toxins can develop.
Oh no, can't have that.
In January 1995, 23 children became very ill, one of whom died when the coroner found as a result of eating garlic metwurst. So be on your guard
You know,
when you're eating metwurst.
Doctor, when you're talking about bratwurst being Weisswurst, I feel like I've been a lot of places where it's like because I see bratwurst generally I think of as white.
Yeah.
And what I remember most about Metwurst that it was like it was dark
Yep.
and spicy.
Okay.
So based
It
on
is
what everyone who's
regarded
listening to
as
this
a
episode knows what my preferences are, you can understand why I was drawn to the Metwurst, and I've been sad that I haven't found it in more places than southwestern Ohio.
Yeah, it is considered a signature dish in Cincinnati, even though it is a German derivation,
Yeah.
of course.
Now, before we get into the Renaissance Festival, I want to hear what Beer Wonder's been up to.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's Beer Wonder. been up
It's
to?
been a slow time in the Beer Wonderverse, I'm afraid.
Oh,
Yeah, and in the Clark Kent job, I'm preparing for some misadventures that are keeping me a little bit on the busier side. But the nice thing is, it brings me down to one of my favorite breweries, down in Coney Island, the Coney Island Brewery, which I know I've spoken of a couple of times, and I wanted to call out some delightful beers that they currently have, and one that a couple that I thought were more up the captain's alley than perhaps mine. So when
Oh,
you
yes.
return, I'll be excited to show you off there. Now, they are they've got all that Uncle Sam money, is what they call it. Sam Adams, Boston Brewing Company, has invested heavily in them.
that's
Um,
right.
and so, but they've got
That sounds like when John Oliver talks about his business daddy.
right, yeah, well, exactly, yes,
Yeah.
definitely business daddy, and also very excited to see John Oliver and all of our friends coming back now that it
Yes.
does appear that the writer's strike has probably ended. I
I have
don't
to
think
vote on it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much at the end. But so they have a really excellent California Common up called the BK Ordinary. And I feel like I rarely see California Commons.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so I'm always excited to see that one. And that one was pretty spectacular. But the two that I really want to call out, first off, this one, their max size is 12%. So it has to be good. It is the Coney Island Brewery Valhalla Ale.
mhm.
It is a
Go
honey
on.
beer. I know, yeah, there we go, right? It is a honey beer at 10% aged in foeders. It is syrupy and delicious. And
Oh,
just
wow.
at its 10% really just gives you a smack and a punch. It is some of my I don't dig hops people were in love with this beer.
Mm,
So it gives you that good
yeah.
that good oakiness. It's really sweet. It's a little syrupy, and the alcohol really kicks in. So I don't know is that a Captain beer?
We have to find out.
Okay, well,
It is
if that
definitely
was
a candidate as a captain beer.
right, well, they do currently have Toast No Toast, which is a brown ale, which I did not try, but I did think of you while I was there. And it is brewed with 5 pounds of fresh caraway seeds, apparently. So that's also helpful. But the one
Oh.
that I was really thinking about you on was the Please, Sir, May I Have S'more
Okay, I'm listening.
American Stout. I'm checking their website for this one. 8.5%.
Yeah.
Okay, solid.
Okay,
Story
solid.
checks
So
out.
yeah, so okay, and made with cocoa nibs, honey, and vanilla.
Oh, wow.
So my big question is,
Yeah.
how sweet was it?
Well, I just had a sampler of it, and it did I did taste the sugars. I will
Okay.
say that I
All
did
right,
taste
all
the
right.
sugars.
I'm not opposed to sweetness. It's
Mhm.
just the over sweetening of things.
Oh yes,
I'm not going to go on a pastry stout rant here, but
I
because
I did- it
regular
it
listeners of the podcast have heard me do that enough. I apologize. It's I there are very good pastry stouts out there, but some of them overdo it. But I wanted to go
I
down
did
Coney
not
Island.
I exactly, but I did not feel that this was treading on pastry territory. Let's put it that way. Because I have strong feelings about the time you and I went to Pastry Town. That was my downfall.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
that
and-
was
and
the one
actually
that broke me.
Despite the fact this beer I'm having right now has chocolate prominently featured, whether it's actual chocolate or just chocolate, it's not hops, it's not yeast, it's chocolate, whatever it was. If it is chocolate, indeed, they do that very well. I would not
Okay.
call this beer I'm having right now a pastry stout.
Okay.
Even if it is
Okay.
chocolatey, it's not. It does not cross the line into pastry.
Yeah, that doesn't just because that's chocolate doesn't mean that it's pastry, right?
That is true. That is true.
Now,
That
from
is
Coney
important.
Island, one of my favorites is called Freaktoberfest. If you ever had
Yes,
that.
I
And
love
tis
their
the-
Freaktoberfest.
Tis the
Mhm.
season.
Yeah,
What's nice about Freaktoberfest, Doctor, is that it's a pumpkin ale, but it's made with espresso beans.
it's so
it's
good.
got-
Ooh.
It's got this coffee flavor with the pumpkin spice. It's like
Well,
when
I
people
gotta
talk
get
about
that.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
They,
Is there a
unfortunately,
relationship? Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say they don't distribute, so you'll just have to come visit us. But continue. I'm sorry.
If
Is
I
it in
must.
cans at least though?
I've seen it in bottles.
I've never seen it. I haven't really
Only
seen.
in
Yeah,
draft,
right. I
huh?
have seen. No, I've seen it in bottles too, but it doesn't travel that far because I know Coney Island has started to, with their relationship with Uncle Sam, Business Daddy, hashtag Business Daddy. They definitely have had broader distribution, but I don't think that that's one of the ones they've been pushing. I know a lot of their
It's seasonal, yeah.
yeah, their merman, the mermaid, all that stuff is seen far and wide, but a lot of the other cool stuff, like I can't imagine. I haven't seen any of the stuff I just talked about anywhere but the brewery.
When I was talking to the doctor last weekend, late in the evening at Oktoberfest, I was saying, offering him to come visit New York because I have a guest room and wanted to host him. So,
Yeah.
so if I can get those bottles, I will save at least one bottle in my refrigerator for that very thing.
Thank you.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you
Coney
go.
Island in the fall, though, it sounds like a good idea if I can manage it in the next season. I've got to lose a little bit of the incredulous bulk, though, to fit back in the Cyclone, which is a goal. So
Okay.
I wanted to ask, is there a relationship between the late lamented Schmaltz Brewing and Coney Island? I seem to recall maybe it's just a collab.
There is
They
a
did.
relation. There is a relation.
Oh, is there a relation? I did not know that. I remembered the collab, but I did not know that they had continued. Huck, fill us in.
And I have more schmaltz information, but talk about that first.
As far as I recall, we probably talked about this on the show before, is that they brew Coney Island beer at the old Schmaltz.
Oh, yes,
Brewery.
their
we go.
production. Yeah, they
Maybe
use
the
their production
first
house.
one.
Yes, that's correct.
Because schmaltz
Yeah.
at some point moved a little further upstate.
Yeah, they do brew out on Coney Island, but they just brew like a couple of specialty beers there. They do like the Mermaid Pilsner and the Merman IPA. They do that all up at the old Schmaltz location.
Yeah.
Well,
There-
that may have been the original schmaltz location, but eventually schmaltz moved a little further upstate, and at some point that wasn't working out for them anymore, and that is now where the single cut location is. That's where the single cut location
Oh,
is in
there
the
you go.
former schmaltz.
Maybe I'm confusing this.
And so for a while, Schmaltz tried to stay because Schmaltz was just they were losing money, and single cut gave them a deal. They might have even been still brewing out of there in like a corner of that location. They were trying to sustain themselves as a contract brewer, but eventually they gave up the ghost. So Schmaltz
R.I.P. Schmaltz.
So,
is no longer. Yeah,
raising
I could
glass.
be wrong. I mean, you might be right. I may be wrong about Coney Island, but
The memory of Funky Jubilation, which
That's a
wow,
good beer.
what a strange duck, but wow, was it good? Yeah.
I'm not going to look up my Untucked profile right now because I'm just having such a good time talking to all you guys, and I don't want a distraction. But there were a few times in a year or two after Schmaltz went away when actually one time specifically, I remember going to the Pony Bar, and they had some like old keg of Jubilation they brought out,
Oh yeah.
and it was fantastic.
Oh, what a
But
treat.
I'm noticing, Doctor, that your level seems to be a little low there. So maybe it's about time to get to some second pours. I'm not sure.
I agree.
Well, definitely Huck. I think if Huck agrees, so I think Huck has to go first.
Oh, all right. Well, I got another great. I was gonna do another Danville beer, but I figured let's spread the breweries out. I do have the Danville Pilsners, which are excellent, German style pills. But I love my old friend here. There does not exist.
Ooh.
They make such.
I love
cool
that can.
They make such cool
Oh,
cans,
wow.
such great can art. And this one is a hoppy pilsner, and it's called Angry Massive Clouds. It's a hoppy pills at 5.2%. Now we like There Does Not Exist, TDNE, or if you look at it on sometimes when they write it out, it looks like just the word tone. The D,
Tone.
like an O. But a little popping out of the
That
can
was
there.
jumping right out there.
And I like when you say Pilsner's hoppy. I like them hoppy.
I know, we know you do. The Hophead Huck, living up to your name.
Yeah, let's see what we got here. It's got
Ooh,
a nice
super clear.
light color, but a little bit darker than straight pills. So maybe those hops are doing their job in here, hopping it. Oh, but there you go. Yeah, really clear. A lot of nice clarity there. Look at this guy. Oh my God, he is angry.
He reminds me of some of the White Walkers on
Massive.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, and I think they must have. I don't know if it's one artist that does these. I should look that up. But if you see their symbol, is it X through the E? But like the doctor might say, shouldn't be an X through a T. There does not exist.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
I think so.
Makes sense to me.
Technically. Anyway, cheers.
All right. Well,
Cheers.
I'm honestly not really done with that 32-ounce crowler, but I've been here and I've been like every time I go to a local, even though I haven't seen a lot of local beers at the beer stores, I'm seeing stuff that I can only get here, and every time I go, I'm like I can't get everything here that I want, so I have to narrow it down.
Mhm.
And I was realizing there's a beer that I've talked about a lot on the show that I like a lot, and in 88 episodes has never actually been here. And
Wow.
so I decided, even though this is an Ohio beer, this is a Midwest beer. And actually, the guy who invented this now works for Warped Wing in Ohio. In fact, I think he is their brewmaster now. New Holland
Oh,
Brewery.
that's where we're
This is
going.
this is the Dragon's Milk.
Oh, yeah.
Bourbon barrel
Yeah.
aged. I'm
Are
not
you
going to even
saying
look
we've
up the
never had New
ABV.
Holland on before?
We
How is that possible?
we actually haven't had any New Holland, but that's the thing is like I remember like the first time you had what's that Vermont Heady Topper.
Yeah, Heady
It's
Topper,
a
yeah.
legend, but we were like 50 episodes or more in when you brought it on.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, Dragon's Milk. I have definitely said how much I like this beer,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah,
haven't
I must
had it.
have had that like back in 2009. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in fact, I remember one time I was here for the Golden Mile, and I was hanging out with my dad at the pool because his house is next to a pool. I think that's a big reason why he stayed here all these years. And I'm there with some of his pool friends, and I'm talking about how we're going on the Golden Mile the next day, and the woman next to us was. We don't call this eavesdropping in the Midwest. We just talk about it like sharing conversations.
Sure.
Because if you're close enough for someone to hear you, they're not eavesdropping. And she said, "Oh yeah, my husband invented Dragon's Milk, and now he works at Warped Wing." Yeah,
Whoa.
You had to jump in on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was really glad to meet her because this has been long one of my favorite beers, New Holland Dragon's Milk. So let's take a look at this. I don't. Someone else can look up the ABV. I'm not going to do that right now, but
Yeah, the hell with it.
It's a good ABV, I'll tell you that much. And here's the
it is.
thing.
It's probably like 11.2.
I also love the sound of that that glass bottle on that beautiful mug right there, because
Right.
that is
stellar.
that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful
Since you
beer.
mentioned that, I'm going to say that because I feel like that's what you're hoping to do it for. This is when we had Father Brownstead on the show.
Mhm.
Not only did he have this or another glass, he's got two of them. So I don't know if this one or the other one, but he got these in the last several years from some young lady he was courting, maybe a little younger than him. I don't know. And so he'd always bring these crystal beer mugs. So this is part of a tribute to him.
Yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's a solid crystal glass or mug, which is
He did
something.
He did the whole baseball sticker thing. People, you know how people like keep the stickers on the caps?
Yep.
I'm going to take these home with me at some point, but he
Yeah.
has still kept the sticker on here. I don't know where the crystal is from, but yeah, that's probably not going to last forever. But he always kept the stickers on there to show his real crystal, I guess. I don't know.
No, you
But
got to prove it.
Yeah.
Well, Bulk, I don't know if you've got another one to share this evening.
I do. I have a
Okay.
second pour, and it is kind of the opposite of local. This
Oh,
is an English beer from Samuel Smith by brand. Samuel Smith acquired the Melbourne Brothers Brewery. Um, I don't want to go too far in unless we run out of things to talk about, but where to categorize Samuel Smith in micro, macro, craft, kind of founding brewery. They're one of the older ones in England. They own a lot of pubs. Did they rescue Melbourne Brothers or take over? Hard to say, but the fruit beers are actually a style that dates from before hops were popular as a bittering preservation agent in England. So the acid of fruits was kind of the substitute, and they are also really yummy. This one is my favorite of them, apricot.
A little bit of trivia about Samuel Smith with
yeah.
regard to the podcast. I looked this up because Bulk asked me if we'd had this before. And even though Samuel Smith was an important part of his origin story, I'm not going to
Mhm.
play the clip. Uh,
Don't launch it.
Even though that was a very important part of all of that, he mentioned Samuel Smith when he was talking about it. But the only time we've ever had Samuel Smith on the podcast was on an episode with Bulk but
Mhm.
Huck had one of them.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, it's like yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm glad that we're honoring that, but you're all going to be shocked because tonight, the Wonder is producing another Wonder
Oh wow.
because I do have a second pour tonight. And I feel like I'm missing the Oktoberfest love, so I have from our friends at Urban Chestnut the Okats Oktoberfest Lager, which
Oh, there you
is
go.
their take on a fest beer. Okats is Ocht Katz Lasch Wolf, which basically means the squirrel's tail. But I felt like it would be only appropriate tonight since we're on that on this adventure together that I join in on our second pours.
That was a
My
lovely
heart is
crack there. I don't
warmed.
want to let that go.
Yeah. Now, since you have the can there, I'm
Yes.
going to ask you to attempt to read the full real name of it.
Och Katz Wolf.
Now,
Woof. It ends with WOAF, which I think is woof, is a like truly legitimate woof, but I don't know.
for our listeners out there who are maybe in St. Louis or
Mhm.
have seen this beer,
I apologize to you all.
part of the can thing on there is like saying there's like one dude who works in the brewery who knows how to pronounce it, which is exactly why they released it as Ocats.
I will admit this is from our at least three of our other Clark Kent jobs with our friends at Unbox Experiences, but I had not tried it yet in honor of that, and I thought I'd bring it out this evening.
That's very cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it is
we
delicious.
tried it. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
I will tell you this the hoppy pilsner from There Does Not Exist. Very nice. It really retains its pilseriness. That's a word.
Sure.
Yeah.
While having a slightly hoppier vibe, and it's really nice. It really nails the hoppy pilsner genre. Is that actually, it's not an official beer style, the hoppy pilsner, but I'll have to do a
I
little
mean,
more research, see
Pilsner
what they did
is.
for hops. Well, pilsner is, but the American hoppy pilsner,
I mean, the BDSFU or whatever it's called. What's the BJJC?
BJCP.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think they're long overdue for an adjustment.
An attitude
well,
adjustment.
they're
Oh,
slow. Oh, they're slow to get to new stuff.
Well,
Like
all I'm
New
saying is,
England.
it's like I appreciate that their attention to detail and all of that, but I think it's time for like, okay, give us a new report.
Yeah, it took them a long time to even accept New England IPA as a style.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's like, I mean, while the New England IPA was absolutely dominating the landscape, they're like, well, is it a style? Like, come on.
Well,
Keep
we're
up.
in there's no such thing as a fish territory pretty quickly, right? For hoppy pilsner, is it pilsner is a style? Is hoppy just a description, like bright or crisp, or is it a
Well, they're
style of
calling
its
it a
own?
hoppy
Yeah,
pilsner.
yeah. But I'm saying
They're pretty,
when they offer it to you, are they saying this is a pilsner and we find it hoppy? It's
and we find it hoppy. I like that.
we
yeah.
find it hoppy. I like that. Well, I actually noticed that when I have, because I actually do a lot of lagers and pilsners here in my old age. I'm older than both you guys, so you'll
Not
get
put
there.
together though,
You'll
right?
get there.
Okay.
All
What's
three
that?
of us, I think.
I am not talking about
Not added up,
the
just
beer wonder
independently. Yeah.
independently. But I do drink a lot of lagers and pilsners, so I've really developed a taste for them, and the American craft lager tends to be a little hoppier
Okay.
at times, and especially like Grim is one that makes a really nice. Just gives it a little more West Coast hoppiness that you don't get from old school lagers, unless it's specifically geared towards that. Like I said, the Danville one I had earlier, I didn't have it, but I have it in my fridge. Maybe we'll go to the third beer.
Oh boy, this is going to be a truly
we're at
epic episode.
now, so
I know maybe we need to break this into 2 episodes, but I wanted to. But I did want to ask: did we ever make it to the Renaissance Festival?
Well, yeah,
let's get back to
I
that.
may not need to spend a huge amount of time on it, but we've been teasing it so much. I think we have to include it.
Yeah.
If I
yeah,
may,
so,
before we move to that, I just found out this is a collab beer,
okay.
and it's got a collab with Cloudburst Brewing. and that's where they get the name, I suppose. And they're out of Seattle,
Okay.
Cloudburst. So there you go. Just
Yeah, so
letting it-
we're closing in on an hour, but we've been talking about the Ren Fair so much, we should talk about it. Although I think the doctor had such a good time at Oktoberfest, he was backing off on the beer on that
This is
day.
true. Yes, I had just the one on that. No, two. That's right. It's supposed to be just one, but I did.
But they did have some really good beer there, although it was more like traditional in keeping with the style of the Renaissance Festival. A lot of the mainstays of all of it was your traditional English beers. I mean, there were separations. There were definitely local things represented, but the big mainstays were like Guinness, Harp, and Smittix.
Mm.
Smittix was kind of my go-to that day. Although at some point, what was that peanut butter porter I had, Doctor?
That was the roadside from Crooked Handle, which is
Crooked
Dayton
Handle.
area. They're in
Yeah.
Springboro, Ohio. Yeah. Well, you please describe what you thought of the flavor, and I might.
Well, the reason I leaned into it, despite I'm Huck feels differently than I do about peanut butter beers because like all of them, and I like ones that don't lean into the like American sweetness of the peanut butter. And you said it was more like roasted peanuts, so I
Okay.
followed your advice, and it was very good. I liked it a lot. It was a Crooked Handle. I will try to remember that one. Yeah, and I had that, but it was mostly Smittix over the course of the day. But really solid beer representation. I actually worked the Ohio Renaissance Festival the first 2 years it existed in, I think it was 1992 and 1993. At that point, it was mostly just the traditional stuff. So like kudos to them for even back then not leaning into the macro stuff. They were really going with the Guinness. At that point, it was also Bass. I don't know whatever happened to Bass. I feel like Bass has sort of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, it's getting a lot less love than it used to. I
That
agree.
used to be your favorite.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when it first started, it certainly was. But then Newcastle Brown eclipsed it. But the only reason I would still keep having Bass was because often the Newcastle Brown wasn't there. But I still really like that. But I also, the few times in the last decade or so when I have found Bass, it's not as good as I remember it. Like I like when I have Newcastle Brown, when I have Smittix, even though it's not my first choice, and Guinness, it has that recollection. Bass is, I don't know. I don't even know where we find it in America these days. Probably if I went
You're
to the
right.
UK
I don't
and
see
had a
it in the
Bass.
stores a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't know where to ask for it. I could go to my local bodega and it would not be there.
Also, just had a really great time seeing the shows at the Renaissance Festival. I would say that if I had any criticism of it, is that they do not promote the shows enough.
No.
They give you this tiny little program with really small print, but mostly and there are some really wonderful performers there, but they seem to be mostly interested in promoting the shops.
Well, I assume that's where they make all their money.
Well, absolutely. So fine, promote those things. But like the Mud Show was the first thing we went to, and full disclosure, there were people in the Mud Show, and my friend Chris, who has a wonderful show there called Filthy Irish Stories. If anyone's listening to this and they're going to the Ohio Renaissance Festival, go see Filthy Irish Stories.
Seconded.
Unless you have
Hardly.
children, because it's too filthy for your children. I'm not even overestimating here. He's wonderful at innuendo, but he's also incredibly explicitly filthy. He talks about fucking, and he says the word fuck and cunt and shit and motherfucker.
Oh,
are we good with our explicit content now this time?
thank you.
Yeah.
No one had done it, so I appreciate you taking care of that for us, Captain. It's important.
Yeah, my dude.
Oh, there we go. Now we have the standards.
And when we talk about nostalgia or whatever version of it you want to do, being here in Ohio, I've been hanging out with the Incredulous Bulk and a couple other people that I know from when I was in high school. And what's strange was going to the Renaissance Festival. There were people that I knew from the 90s in upstate New York and in Florida. We're all in the same place. So it's like all this stuff rushing back. But also, I don't know, Bulk, my friend Pat, the other Well, not that we're saying
Maybe,
your
maybe
actual name.
yeah.
How old would you guess that the guy who played Jercules is?
If I just seen him and heard nothing, I would place him at maybe my age. He's well fit, so it's really hard to tell. So I'd
Well,
say
yes, and I would place him
maybe
at
he's mid
roughly,
50s.
yes, just turned 60 a couple of days ago.
Yeah, wouldn't go there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know you were hesitant because I told you he'd been doing this for more than 30 years,
Right.
but yeah, just really, really, really fantastic shows. And then my friend Chris, who's I guess I'll say this because he's a really wonderful author. I don't know if you started either of the books that you bought the other day. Christopher Bielman has a wonderful series of horror and fantasy books, just been turned into a podcast with some really high profile people called The Lesser Dead about vampires in New York City in the 70s. Um, I know we were talking about beer. I'm just talking.
Yeah.
From these memories I've been having, being here, like it's just so strange. Like my entire childhood plus the early '90s in a different location, all converging together, and it was a whole lot of fun. And we'd also had some really good beers.
And because I got to go with you, I got to meet some really terrific people that I probably wouldn't have actually met, even if I'd seen the shows. And I already mentioned, my roller coaster obsession probably more than once. I know once today.
Yeah,
So from that
Yes.
habit, I was approaching Renaissance fairs as the theme park entertainment is not something you seek out.
yeah,
Entirely wrong. Entirely and deeply wrong. These are very skilled, very talented, engaging performers. Uniformly from the ones we saw, I would say that Chris Churchard O'Shea was just a standout and a surprise. I didn't know that I could enjoy a simple storytelling so much, and we absolutely did. So
yeah.
Now, I noticed a photograph. I saw a photograph, and if I may, from this photograph, I thought the Dr. Bierner, you're looking very well.
Yes.
thank you.
And I noticed that the captain was possibly wearing a kilt. Is that correct?
I was. It was. It was. I mean, it was a subtle kilt. It was.
I did not know you owned
A
a kilt.
gentle
I
kilt.
do not own a kilt. Okay.
You rented
Yes.
it.
Thank you for leading me into this story. Here's what happened.
Please.
I have a friend who was at the New York Renaissance Festival, not the
Mhm.
Sterling Renaissance Festival. They're two different things. A friend who was at the New York Renaissance Festival right before I left town.
And the
Um,
captain is a veteran of Renaissance festivals.
I did. And that's why I knew these guys from the '90s. I worked the Sterling Renaissance Festival again, not
Right.
Sterling Forest for you New York people. This was near Syracuse. I did 92, 93, 94, 97. I also did a mud show in Florida in the mid '90s. Anyway, so but I have
Veteran.
a couple of young friends who were really into Ren fairs, and one of them went to the New York in a city called Tuxedo. Um, and it was time travel weekend. So she and her friends all did this whole steampunk thing. And I sent her a text saying, I think I'm going to the fair this weekend and it's Highland weekend, but I'm not buying a kilt or anything. And she said, yeah, you say that now. And I still didn't buy one, but I'm not, as someone who worked Renaissance festivals, I don't really dress up at Renaissance festivals because I feel that's amateur hour.
Okay.
Red
It's
rat.
just like I'm not if I'm wearing a costume, I'm there to work.
You want to get paid. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. But my dad's neighbor said to me like, "Hey, I hear you're going to the rent." I kind of told him we're going to the rent fair. He said like, "If you need a costume, let me know." And I just jokingly said, "Well, do you have a kilt? It's Highland weekend. Do you have a kilt I can borrow?" And he said, "I have two."
Oh, great.
And so
Well,
the next thing you know, I'm wearing a kilt, and it's 55 degrees when we get there, but over the
Oh,
course of the day
my.
it's 70.
good Lord.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah,
But since
warmed
it
up.
was 55 degrees at the beginning of the day, I'm wearing my leather jacket, and I almost left it in the car. But Dr. Beer Nerd said, the leather and the kilt, that's a good look.
It
So
looks
of
good.
course, that's all the encouragement I needed to carry the leather jacket around with me all day.
I love it.
Occasionally leaving it to you and your wife, but. So that's why all the pictures. I guess now I have to put one of these on our Instagram. I think of me.
Clearly,
Yes,
the,
yes.
the people need to see it.
Well, I
Absolutely.
hereby dibs the Subtle Kilt as a pub name, if I should open
The
one.
subtle
Oh,
kilt.
that's good. The
Yeah.
subtle kill.
I would drink a lot there.
It
Yeah.
is better than my other reserved pub name, the Keistered Boot, but not perhaps as good for adventure game settings. So.
Fair.
Well, my favorite part about it is, of course, that the Dr. Beer Nerd, the Incredulous Bulk, and my other friend who we met there, Scott. He doesn't have a beer name, so he's Scott. They saw me regularly perform in the late 1980s as Dr. Frankenfurter,
Mm.
performing in front of the screen at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So uh, a kilt that's essentially cargo shorts, not a big deal at all.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with like wearing full makeup and a teddy. Yeah, just it's a skirt. Well, it's not a skirt. I should also say that my neighbor, well, when he loaned me the kilt, what I told him was, I said, Jerry, uh, I'm probably going to wear this traditionally. And Jerry said,
Oh,
but full disclosure,
Drafty.
I didn't. I say that phrase a lot. I said I didn't. Well, I didn't tell him this, but I didn't bring underwear with me because I'm not performing. I only wear underwear when I perform.
Right.
Too much information, I know.
You get
But
when you get it, you got to be paid to wear underwear. Yeah.
no, it's just like if I'm wearing someone else's clothes, yes, I will put a buffer between the junk and the clothes you are paying me to wear.
Understood.
I'm not gonna get my
Polite,
whatever.
yeah.
But I didn't tell Jerry all that. All I said was I'm inclined to wear it traditionally. He said, "Yeah, you got to wear it traditionally, otherwise it's just skirt."
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I didn't argue with him because he was just
Not that
reinforcing
there's
what I was
anything
saying.
wrong
So I'm
with
like,
wearing a skirt.
I'm fine wearing a skirt with underwear too, but okay. So that's what I'm doing. So that's fine. So that's how the whole kilt thing happened.
It should definitely be
Sweet.
something that makes you feel pretty, though. I think that's probably important.
Yeah, I
Whether
did,
it's
and I
kilt or
also
skirt.
felt very
Yeah.
comfortable. The toughest
Oh
thing was
hell yeah!
tucking it in when I sat down.
The kilt.
Because every
Right.
time I
Kilt.
would sit down
Just
and feel
clarify
my
for
bare
the radio
thighs
audience.
against the seat, I'm like, I'm not wearing this right.
Well, I think we're having a lot of fun, and I don't want to wrap it up, but
Oh yeah, okay. So
kind of reaching that time.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
about to the end, but I do want to say something before we end things. Those of you who have listened to our last couple of episodes know that we have talked about death a little bit.
Mm.
All of us here in this room have been in some way, directly or indirectly, as we all are, as we live as human beings, we're affected by death.
Mm.
Mm.
A lot of us more closely than we would like to be in the last year. But one of the ways that we make it through those tragic times is by hanging out with each other and having beers. So it's
Yeah.
not anathema to all of it. It's like it's part of it. And if you listen to the rebroadcast I did about the episode that my father, who was recently deceased, and very unexpectedly, you heard that I was influenced by another podcast called WTF, and I sent an email to the Brendan McDonald, who is the producer of WTF, about how I was influenced by him in part because of every time someone passes away on that podcast, they re-release it and do a little tribute, and so I was inclined to do it as well. And he sent me an email back. I'm not going to read all of it, but there is something I thought that was really for anyone out there who is struggling through these things. This last line he had in the email, I think, is just going to be really helps me, and will hopefully help you. He said, "Please be well, and don't be afraid to ask those around you for help. People want to help more than they'll ever be able to express."
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. Amen.
and as much as that was wonderful advice, and I appreciate it, I didn't need it as much because my friends here have all been there for me, and have been. I probably ask for help soon, but haven't asked you because you guys have been there, and that's really important to me, and I really appreciate that.
Right on. Well, obviously, I mean, if we listened last week, we know that we lost our dear Father Brown Stout
Yeah.
in this past couple weeks. So let's please raise a glass
You know,
to the man.
yes, he was a wonder in himself.
Yes, here.
Yeah.
And doesn't get mentioned enough, a Jeopardy champion.
That's true, lest we forget.
Yes. He was 2-day Jeopardy champion. I put up a post recently about. I put up my own post, and then I put up my sister's. She wrote a beautiful obituary for him, and one of my friends, actually from the Rocky Horror days, put up there, said, "Why didn't she mention Jeopardy?"
I mean, he had so many incredible accomplishments and did so many great things and touched so many people that the fact that we left that one out, I guess there was just a litany of things that had to get covered.
Yeah.
So
thanks everyone for listening. I hope if any of you have any things you're struggling with, you can reach out to us as well, or anything else.
Yeah, where could we be reading
yeah,
on
I
the,
was going to say,
Facebook
where
web?
do you find us?
Well, if you want to email us, you can do it at thebeervengers@gmail.com. You can do it at anything with the @ symbol and the Beer Vengers after us. I also actually want to thank the incredulous Bulk, aka Dr. Bruce Bierner, for joining us again. It's one of our most frequent guests.
Hell yeah.
And,
They finally precedented 6 times.
yeah, come
As
back
always,
anytime.
my pleasure. I will.
Yeah.
All right, Hug Place out.
With a beer vengers, beer vengers, beer vengers. We're the Beer Vengers.